And then I'm going to ask Jack if he will speak to the bylaws, which then were amended as a result of our strategic plan. So Jack, we got copies of that too, of the bylaws, the new bylaws amended.
Okay. Are you ready now?
Yep.
Okay. A couple of years ago, it became evident that our governance structure had difficulties. When the organization was formed, there were a couple of state associations that got together, Jim Transu, Harry Groves. Who's that fellow from Maryland, Charlie? Who was the founder of NaCCRA from Maryland?
Bob Sparks.
Bob Sparks, thank you, Charlie. But anyway, they got together, and it was a federation of federations. So they said, for example, that the state associations could name 2 directors to the board, and any community association could name a member to the board. And so we had cases where a particular community would have no interest, but one fellow in that community might be interested, so he sent in a check for $150, said that was the community association dues, and he appointed himself to the board. And we wound up with a rather unwieldy board, as you can imagine. So
And just add too that if we had 50 states in this in NaCCRA, and each state was eligible to have 2 members on the board of directors, that's 100 people. Then each community was eligible to have 1 person on the board, and if you have however many community associations, we could have conceivably 1,000 people on the board, and that just wasn't going to work. No.
So I think, as you can see, this morning, Charlie, do you want to interrupt?
Yeah, it sounds like you're being a little critical, and so I want to defend what
No, don't do that. It was a good beginning, and we knew we have to change, and that's why we did what we did.
Charlie, I'm doing my best to do a transition here from what we were to what we are. Everything you've done, Charlie, has been absolutely magnificent.
Absolutely.
And I'm free to announce that Nelson Mandela has been released from the hospital. And Charlie, you're a saint up there with Nelson Mandela. You've been in bondage for all these years, and we appreciate everything you've done. And this is a magnificent organization. So let's hear it for Charlie. But
now I really do need to talk. I'm not looking for that, but the whole intent to start with, and the original founders all admitted that they were wrong because they only wanted state associations. It took them 3 years to accept an individual resident. And the reason they felt that way, the original board all had adequate personal resources that they desired no reimbursement for travel or anything else. As it grew, that capability vanished. People had to have some reimbursement to travel. But everything that was done from the beginning was to encourage participation. That's still a weak link today. When you stop and think, we're sitting in a state with 71 CCRCs, and we only have 75 residents registered to attend this meeting. There should have been 500 registered to attend this meeting. That's what we've got to overcome, and we still need to work on that. And the way you work on it is expand the membership.
That's right.
well, unless I'm mistaken, I believe everybody was riveted this morning listening to Walt Boyer speak with a nuclear physicist precision about something that could really relate to where residents are, where they live, and what their concerns are. But it's understandable that most people are pretty apathetic, and I try very hard not to go to the resident association meeting where they each committee gives its report, and the book committee talks about the books they bought and all of that. And so I understand that we're representing all of those people. Hello, Bob.
That's okay, go ahead. I just want to check something.
Okay. Any threat I may have had for talking about bylaws is totally gone. Anyway, I think you get the idea. This was an association of associations, and it was unwieldy, and people viewed us as ineffective, and that was a problem. So we needed to have strong leadership that was representative of everybody, not only those who are active, but those who aren't active, those who are hoping we're doing something, everybody. We've got the nominating committee now, and the new bylaws is structured from the state association presidents so that they have input into choosing the board, but the board will be chosen for qualities that they can bring to the leadership category, and that's something that's highly desirable. We also need to reach out our membership, because people in most states don't even know that NaCCRA exists. And so we're working on that, and that's what the bylaws address. But I don't want to bore you with the bylaws, so let me talk about the matters that were in controversy, because it's always controversy that gets people interested. The first was the question of advocacy. We're positioned as an educational association. And so there was the view in the first draft of the bylaws that the best form of advocacy is understanding. And I was listening to Walter Hood back there, and he said he believes that reason should prevail in the public quarters, but sometimes power prevails, and they would push aside something that was a well-reasoned document that he was trying to advance because it didn't fit with what somebody's interest might have been. So we were trying to move toward that kind of advocacy. Advocacy is education and understanding, since when people really understand, they'll do the right thing. But people wanted the word advocacy. So now we've put the word advocacy in, and that means we can advocate. I don't know that that means we're going to flood Washington with a bunch of postcards that go in the trash. It means we're going to develop the ideas that the politicians have to adopt, because if they don't, everybody in the country is going to know they're irrational and that they belong in the toilet, and they'll de-elect them. So that's number one. So, but we do have now advocacy. The words advocacy is allowed to be in there, and sometimes that becomes associated with activism. The other question had to do with the embrace of providers and people who represent provider interests as well as resident interests, because we want residents to be represented on provider boards. How many of you think that residents should be allowed to serve on the boards of CCRCs? How many of you think that providers should be allowed to serve in our organization as part of our resident organization? Well, actually, you're less controversial than the group was. But anyway, the discussion of the bylaws became quite extended. It took 5 hours. We had a teleconference, 5 hours worth of teleconference. It's all on NaCCRA. If you want to listen to the board discuss it, you can go here verbatim, everything that everybody said. This is an open organization. We want to bring people into participation. We're going to use electronic means. Not all of our members can travel readily. We're doing everything we can to get the message out to people so they can participate, they can make their voices heard. And if you want to hear how things are going, you can get it all on NaCCRA.
Hallelujah.
And Jack is trying to get this president to become comfortable with Skype. So, well, you know, I'm bringing myself into the 21st century. And I'm probably one of the few people in this room that has a flip phone, a cell phone. Everybody, you have a, and they all say, what? You don't have an iPad or a whatever, QXR? Oh, you have. So anyway, we're bringing ourselves into the 21st century, and there are all kinds of things that are going to be happening. Please stay with us, and please stay tuned to all of the exciting things that are happening, because all kinds of good things are happening.